Beginning today for the next weeks of Lent, we will be walking us through a sermon series on the spiritual works of mercy. Many of us are familiar with the corporal works of mercy: feed the hungry, clothe the naked, give drink to the thirsty. The corporal works of mercy, the things that have to deal with our bodily needs. We're very familiar with those, most of us are. I want to speak about the spiritual works of mercy. Perhaps we're a little less familiar with those, but they're of equal importance in the eyes of the church. I'm going to list them, and then we're going to start going through them during the weeks of Lent, okay? Here are the spiritual works of mercy. Instruct the ignorant. Counsel the doubtful. Admonish sinners. Bear patiently those who wrong us. Forgive offenses. Console the afflicted. Pray for the living and the dead. Those are the spiritual works of mercy. Pretty exciting, huh? I think the spiritual works of mercy are very difficult to live, much harder than the corporal works of mercy, which is, I think, why they're much less popular in terms of practice. And here's why. The corporal works of mercy, feeding the hungry, clothing the naked, etc., I can do that. I can do the corporal works of mercy, and so can you, without having any relationship to the person who's receiving those things. I can feed the hungry without even knowing the person's name who's hungry, right? I can give housing to those who need it without ever having to talk to that person. No relationship is required to do the corporal works of mercy, in essence. And I think oftentimes with our charity, it becomes that way. Our charity can oftentimes become anonymous, can it? We just sort of send something, which is helpful, but there's very little actual engagement with the person. With the spiritual works of mercy, it's not like that at all. The spiritual works of mercy require a relationship, necessitate conversation. Instruct the ignorant, counsel the doubtful, bear patiently the wrongdoings of others. This requires that we have a relationship with a person. So I'm going to tackle the first one today, and then we'll work through the other ones the rest of the weeks of Lent. Instruct the ignorant. Now, when we hear that, instruct the ignorant, we hear that word ignorant, in our modern ears, we kind of get a little prickly. Ignorant simply means not knowing. So we could change this and say, teach people who don't know. Instruct those who don't know. Ignorant literally just means not knowing. It's not a judgment on a person. It's just a fact. The person either knows or doesn't know. You could hand me your violin and say, play this song, and I'd say, I'm ignorant. I can't play it. It's no judgment on me as a human being. I literally don't know how to do that. But if you taught me, I could. All I'm lacking is the knowledge. Make sense? So to say, oh, he can't play the violin is not a judgment on me as a person, like, oh, he doesn't play the violin, he's a horrible person. But you and I live in a culture where we're very quick to feel that kind of judgment, aren't we? You and I live in a culture where we're very quick to react of like, well, stop judging me. It's not a judgment of you as a person, it's a statement of fact. Do you know how to do calculus or not? Right? It's just a statement of fact. You either know it or you don't. That doesn't mean you're a good or a bad person, okay? Instructing the ignorant is a spiritual work of mercy. Mercy is always about giving something to somebody that's going to benefit this person. God extends mercy to us. He could extend condemnation, which would not be good for us. He extends mercy, which is good for us. Mercy is about granting to somebody the thing that will benefit their life. So the corporal works of mercy, feed the hungry, you're granting something to somebody that's going to benefit them, make their life better. The spiritual works of mercy, teaching people what they don't know. That's a work of mercy because people need to know. And what do they need to know essentially? That Jesus Christ is Lord. That God loves them. That they are a part of God's plan. That they have eternal value. That they have inherent dignity as a human being created in God's image and likeness. That there is inherent value in them. That God is a part of your life and desires to make you a son and daughter. That's good stuff to know, isn't it? And there's people who don't know it. And it would be a merciful act to tell them that, wouldn't it? The very end of Matthew's gospel, Jesus, just before he ascends to heaven, tells his apostles, "Go and make disciples of all nations. Teach them all that I have commanded you." Teach them. The first spiritual work of mercy, instruct. Teach. That's why Catholic churches have almost always had schools, because teaching is essential to the faith. Jesus became a human being so that he could what? Proclaim the good news. He revealed the Father. How? By teaching those who didn't know. This corporal work of mercy is really important. Pope Francis wrote his first apostolic exhortation when he was Pope. The first one he wrote. Now the titles just flew from my head. Now you need to instruct the ignorant right here. The joy of the gospel or something like that. And he posed the question. He said, "Where are our missionaries?" You've heard me say this before. It's one of my favorite quotes from Pope Francis. Where have our missionaries gone? In other words, who is teaching the gospel? Who's going out there instructing the ignorant? Who is going out there proclaiming the good news? We used to have missionaries all over, didn't we? All over the world. Where are they? Where'd they go? We've stopped. That command of Christ continues. Go to all nations and teach them all that I have commanded you. So I offer you this spiritual work of mercy, to teach those who don't know. Where do you fit in that? All of us do. Now, certainly, we all have our role. The Pope has a much stronger role in teaching than I do, but we're all called to teach. How are you instructing those who don't know, particularly about the things of God? So parents, pass the faith on to your children. But the first thing is this. In order for us to instruct others, we have to know first, don't we? We have to know. So maybe this Lent is about us all trying to learn a bit more about our faith, especially if you feel a little weak in your knowledge of the faith. There are so many resources out there now. We are so blessed with all the technology we have. Oh my gosh. There is so much there at our fingertips that we could learn. I'll just remind you, we'll keep putting this in the bulletin. We have an excellent online resource called Formed, F-O-R-M-E-D, formed.org by Lighthouse Catholic Publishing. We have a parish subscription. You go to their website, you can log in and create a login for free. You have to use our parish code. You can get it on our website, and you have access to incredible amounts of Catholic movies, Bible studies, great videos, DVD. Let me just be honest. Most of us, when it comes to reading about our faith, we get a theological book. This is how I am. I get a book on theology, and I start reading. I'm like, it's hard. It's hard to read theology. But it's easy to watch a video, isn't it? So watch the videos if you're like me and you struggle reading. Or get audiobooks. Anybody listen to audiobooks? I just right now am listening to a wonderful audiobook on the end of the life of John Paul II and the pontificate of Benedict XVI. Just sort of reminding myself of all the things that John Paul II did. I'm learning so much as I'm driving around. So instead of yelling at people in cars and traffic, I'm actually feeding my mind. There's lots of ways to learn. So learn. So my challenge to you for Lent, Do something to learn, to feed your mind with the faith, to learn something. And then how are we instructing others? Keep your eyes and ears open to be able to instruct others who don't know. And I think the real challenge with this is that you and I live in a culture that's called a culture that basically lives by the philosophy of relativism. Have you heard that term before? Relativism, which really means that there's no right or wrong. What's true for you is true for you. What's true for me is true for me. So in terms of instructing other people, it's difficult because they'll just say, well, that's what you believe, and that's what I believe. So we're going to have to kind of battle that, because there is a truth, isn't there? There is right and there is wrong. And so we have to teach people, because there are folks that don't know. We have to instruct them in love. So be kind when you go about doing this, and be prepared. You might meet a little bit of resistance, because none of us like being told what to do. Right, spouses? You're good at this one. Instructing the ignorant. Just kidding. A couple of ideas too for you, how you can put this into practice. You could, maybe as a family, those of you who have children, a family, once a week. For example, you could pick a night. And at dinner, you could, here's what you do. You go find like one of those like Catholic or Bible trivia games, Bible trivia, Catholic trivia, and you just put the little cards and you keep them in a little cup on your table. And one night a week, you just, during dinner, you start taking those cards out and you read the questions, and you might not know the answers, but you know the cool thing is the answers are on the back side of the card, which means you learn. And so you could play Bible trivia or Catholic trivia one night a week while you're having dinner, and you might all learn a lot. And if you did that one night a week, that's 52 nights a week that you're really learning something. And it's kind of fun too. It's one idea. Another thing that you could do is become a catechist at your parish. We have hundreds of children that come here every weekend to learn the faith, and many of you have been really gracious with your time to teach the faith. Come and be a catechist. Pass the faith on to the children. It's a spiritual work of mercy. Be a part of the RCIA team, passing the faith on to those who are becoming Catholic. Those are wonderful opportunities for you to enter into this great project, which is the spiritual works of mercy. That's all I'm going to say about that. In the weeks to come, we'll walk through the other spiritual works of mercy. Instruct the ignorant, or another way of saying it, teaching those who don't know. It's a command of Christ, and it's a spiritual work of mercy, giving people what's going to benefit them ultimately for eternal life.